Let's start with Sarah in Thunder Bay. So Sarah, describe what it's like where you are right now.
Well, it's a pretty hot and hazy day. Typically, people come here to Hillcrest Park to see the iconic sleeping giant. You can't see it today because of all of the haze. Earlier this morning, you couldn't even see any of the ships in the water. We've seen white ash falling from the sky and coating people's cars. There's definitely an odor in the air from all of this smoke. And as you said, temperatures could feel like 40 degrees here with the humidex, which is pretty unheard of in Thunder Bay. It hasn't been that hot here for many years. And so those air quality warnings are also in effect. Officials are urging people to check in on children, older adults, pets, and people with underlying health conditions. Meanwhile, while all of this is happening, there are more than 120 wildfires burning throughout the Northwest, and multiple communities have been under evacuation because of this.
And so, Sarah, as the region contends with heat warnings and smoky skies, there are dozens of wildfires burning, prompting multiple evacuation orders. What can you tell us about that part of the story?
Yes, so the first evacuation orders were issued late last night for communities around Armstrong and White Sand First Nation. That's about 250 kilometers north of Thunder Bay. Meanwhile, communities further west toward Ignace are on standby in case an evacuation is needed. I checked in with the municipality a little while ago, and they said currently the fire near them is moving away from the community, but it all depends on the winds, right? Fire crews are doing what they can to battle the fires, but things can change very quickly. So what we know is that some evacuees are coming to Thunder Bay from White Sand First Nation and Armstrong, and we're still determining where other evacuees will be sent, but we're talking about hundreds of people on the move here. We're checking in with leadership from those affected communities to see what's happening and how people are affected. Meanwhile, officials are encouraging people to prepare 72-hour go bags in case that they do need to go on a dime. And the air quality, again, is really painting a really stark picture for a lot of people. It's affecting people's health, the heat, the smoke. In Thunder Bay, they've extended hours for cooling centers and drop-in centers to help the communities most vulnerable. And again, people are just encouraging each other to check in with one another and pay attention to what officials are saying, whether that be more warnings about air quality, the heat, and road closures as well. Some services and even restaurants have closed just to give their staff a break from all of this.
I'm sure they need it. Sarah, thank you. The CBC's Sarah Law live in Thunder Bay, Ontario.
Take us here. This is getting a little scary.
Yeah.
Holy.
Okay. Yeah, this is.
Okay, y'all need to hurry up here. Like, seriously, we're encased in flames now.
You guys gotta go backwards. Go.
Hello, Jody, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you there. I'm telling them we're notching up.
Yeah, this has got to move quick here. Holy crap. Oh, that's alright. This kind of burnt off, so we'll be okay now.
Yeah, it went across. Holy
yeah. Oh yeah, look over there.
We are surrounded.
You guys got a light now or what? Did you guys get that light? Oh yeah, they're clipped in. Whew! That's a meat and a half, eh?
It was one of the most scary things I think I've ever seen. The clouds just got dark and they were moving fast. I get a call from my mom and she says, "Get ready, you need to leave now. Don't panic, whatever you see. Just go to the beach and wait." So of course I panicked a bit. I wet a towel and grabbed my two dogs, my two little chihuahuas.
I did bring my Xbox. We were able to pack that up first.
We waited for about 20 minutes. Just within that small amount of time, you could see they're getting really close.
Every time I would drive a boat, it'd be nice and calm, so I didn't have to worry. But this time, the waves were really big. It's very scary. The smoke, you could just feel it in my lungs. It was so hot.
I've never seen a fire that big. It was angry. It was moving fast. The wind really did not help. It was coming in our direction. Evacuations like that have never happened. It was always usually, and you got some time to prepare. Never had to leave in an emergency like that.
Oh, that's my cue to start. Welcome in, everyone. I did want to start with that because I just want to make sure that everyone is safe. It is, and that particular First Nations is just destroyed. The fires, you can see the map all across Canada. All the red spots are out of control fires. I think the train was in somewhere in Ontario. I'm not quite sure. I didn't have time to check the exact location of that First Nations. But you can see there's just fires all across. It's definitely frightening, and it's impacting a lot of people as well with the smoke. Yeah, that's for sure. And you know what the ridiculous thing is? I was just lying in bed this morning trying to convince myself to get out of bed, and I was just scrolling, as you do. There is a senator somewhere in the United States that is trying to introduce a bill to penalise Canada for their smoke from their fires. I kid you not. Like, that should be the least concern right now. But I have to say, I'm kind of amazed that it's barely hitting the news here in Australia. Even more amazed that our Prime Minister hasn't stepped up and said, yeah, we're sending over some fireys to help. Because, I mean, here in Australia, we usually do jump in and help. Like, wildfires in California. There's been some years when they've been so bad that we've sent some of our fireys over. So I'm just amazed that we're not hearing anything in the media here, and that our Prime Minister's just sitting on his ass doing nothing. So on behalf of Australia, I want to apologise to Canada for our Prime Minister being a complete utter waste of space. Yeah. Stay inside if it's smoky, even if I saw, who was it? Little Black Bear was saying she, getting that sore throat from the smoke. Even if you're getting a sore throat, stay inside, because that means the air quality is definitely compromised, and you'd be amazed how quickly it can creep up on you in terms of impact on your lungs and stuff like that. Yep. That's the thing. I mean, how many times have Australia and Canada jumped when California's had massive wildfires? And I think we might have even sent people over for the LA fires. So, first of all, this senator needs a major reality check, but also our Prime Minister needs a boot up the arse, something fierce. The train is north of Thunder Bay, northwest Ontario. Thanks for that. Yeah, nothing protects the eyes. Just you get the smoke in it, which is horrible. I've been one of the reasons I was a little bit late this morning was I was just bumping off an email to a friend just to check on them, because I know that the smoke's going to affect them really badly. And so Just bumping off an email, just going, I hope you're okay. You're kidding me. California has no fighting infrastructure. Wow. You just have to look at some of those national park areas. Look up around the Tahoe region. That's, yeah. That smoke, that is a long way for the smoke to be traveling. I was scrolling through things this morning, and it was saying that they're saying there's smoke all the way over in New York. Like, New York is affected by the smoke. So, some idiot politicians like, well, let's penalise Canada for their fires. How about let's go and send some assistance? Yeah, I heard about that barn fire too. That's scary, scary, scary. Yeah. Thankfully, because we get so many bushfires every year, that is one thing I will say about Australia in terms of bushfire management. We have so much like infrastructure in terms of bushfire management. But when you get a fire that goes through really, really quick, there's not a lot you can do. Well, that's the thing. It's always about worrying about if your area is going to be next. I think there's a lot of places here in Australia where forestry has basically been locked out. Now, I'm all for environmental stuff. I support Greens with some things, but the Greens have pretty much shut down a lot of logging here in Australia. And when you look at places like Tasmania, where most of the state is bush, and most of that was managed by Forestry Tasmania, who have now pretty much gone, like Guns have now left Tasmania pretty much. There's no management happening. So sooner or later, there's going to be another catastrophic bushfire, like somewhere like Tassie, where there hasn't been any management for years, and it's just going to go through the entire state. Like, it's just going to be disastrous. And, you're going to get that in other places as well. Mexico as well. Yeah, Australia is really good usually at sending. Now, maybe Albo's probably focused on something completely irrelevant and hasn't noticed the fires in Canada yet. And he'll probably decide in a few more days that, yeah, let's send a couple of Aussies over to help with the Canadian fires. So just to make sure that, all the fireys over in Canada are thoroughly exhausted first. I just think it annoys the crap out of me that we have such a useless Prime Minister when I see fires all the way across Canada and nothing is happening. Sorry, anyway, I shouldn't get political, but Australia send elite firefighters who jump out of helicopters. Is that for real? I only know that they do send the best of the best when there's fires in like California and that. Mm, they jump right into the fire. Oh, interesting. Yeah, well, that's the same here in Australia. A lot of before white people came along, Aborigines had really good fire management. And we basically shoved them off into different corners in Australia, locked forestry out of our bush areas, and we're headed for another disaster. Oh, okay. Yep. I get you now. The pig people were insured and very wealthy. Well, that's a bit disturbing, given that the current economic climate is not good. Let's hope that there's some cooler weather, a bit of relief for fires in Canada really, really soon. Tomorrow is an orange alert day. I'm not sure how your alerts work. Well, on the NASA map, it looks like most of North America is on fire. How frightening. Well, when you look at this map, what did they say? 120 yellow, orange, red, so it's certainly getting up there. Wow. I know, here in Australia, a lot of people, if they live in a bushfire-prone area, at the start of summer, they usually pack like a go crate or a go bag for if you've got to evacuate. Like, you put all your photo albums and the things that you don't want to leave behind in a crate, so that if you've got to evacuate, you can just grab it and go. Because, there's not a lot of time. Yeah. I think it's time to, start looking after each other again. Because, when everything's working well, it works well. But yeah. Anyway, so I am hoping very much that everyone in Canada is staying safe and everyone who's affected by the smoke is actually breathing, because that's always a good thing. Let me see, which clip do I need? Now, I have some news stuff from Yep. There's areas like that in Australia. And my advice to anyone in any areas that are bushfire affected is, if there's any doubt in your mind, don't wait to be told to evacuate. Because, especially if you're in an area where there's like only one road out, because that last minute thing, suddenly you get traffic everywhere. Like, it reminds me, we had some really horrible, horrible fires in Victoria it's probably going back 10 years or so, and all these people just sitting in their cars on a mountain, essentially waiting to get out because so many people were trying to evacuate at once. Yeah. So, yeah, my number one advice to people is don't wait for an evacuation order. If you're nervous, just go for a drive. Nothing to lose. Yeah, it seems like we've all got crappy governments at the moment. I mean, that says I don't want a Liberal government here in Australia right now, but Albo's a complete loser. Oh, thanks for checking in, BTTV. Yeah. Make sure you're staying inside and keeping out of that air. Wow. It's not good. It's not good. Let's just hope that there's a change in weather soon, and hope that our Prime Minister pulls his finger out of his butt and gets some help over to Canada soon. They're wanting the NWO arrange. It does. It reaches a point where it does. Last full of fires here, I was doing my best to stay inside, and even then you could tell it was coming in. I can't see what Camilla said, but I'm just going to say welcome in, Camilla, anyway, because I can never see you, so I do need to just welcome you. So I'm only seeing half of a conversation here, so I've got no idea whatsoever. Okay, so some news clips to go through first. I was looking for, yesterday Belinda was talking about the briefing and Justin going to the briefing. Now, I must have missed that going through all the news clips last night, but I did get some clips that I wanted to go through. So I'm going to go through them, and then I'm going to replay excerpts from just one part of this. So we'll put this up.
Searching, we covered everywhere possible. Even in the first day, we did. Even with me running through the woods, I was ahead of the helicopters and ahead of the drones and stuff like that. Screaming as loud as I can, just until my throat hurt. Running through water that was up to my waist. And as soon as I got back, I wasn't allowed back in the woods until a man dressed in a military outfit said I could go back into the woods.
4 days into the search for his missing stepkids, Lily and Jack Sullivan, Daniel Martel is pleading with the public to keep their eyes peeled. But he has begun to lose hope they are anywhere in the vicinity.
I hate being wet.
Oh, wow, Halifax has no power. That's frightening. That's a good question. Logan's been very quiet lately. I just want to welcome everyone who's coming in now. I think there's a few more people who YouTube are hiding from me. Who else did I just saw? Ernestine, I can't see you, but oh, there you are. 2 fires burning out of control. Oh, there's one not far from Belinda. Oh wow, I hope Belinda's okay. I hadn't even looked closer at Nova Scotia. I just was just looking at the map and didn't even. Wow. Well, I hope Belinda's okay. Welcome in, Denise. Yeah, the fires really are scary, especially when they're nearby. And then all the smoke as well is just makes it even more disturbing and frightening.
So they immediately would have came right back into the house. The only 2 prints are right beside the house facing the road, and then that's it.
Martel wants the search to be extended to include provincial borders in case the children were abducted, a reality he says is becoming more and more likely.
Post any officers they can get at the New Brunswick border, PI border, and get them at every airport possible.
Martel confirmed that when the 2 children went missing from the home behind me, Lily was wearing a pink shirt and pink rain boots. She was also carrying a white backpack with strawberries on it. Martel says although he didn't see Jack that morning, he is believed to be wearing a brown shirt, brown pants with a pull-up diaper on underneath, and blue rain boots with dinosaurs on them.
He did say, even with me running, I'll run that back a little bit. And also, you might have just caught what she was saying there, that he had told her. Because there's a lot of interesting things that have just been said. Where's Daniel? I think we'll go right back there.
A reality he says is becoming more and more likely.
Post any officers they can get at the New Brunswick border, PI border, and get them at every airport possible.
Martel confirmed that when the 2 children went missing from the home behind me, Lily was wearing a pink shirt and pink rain boots. She was also carrying a white backpack with strawberries on it. Martel says although he didn't see Jack that morning, he is believed to be wearing a brown shirt, brown pants with a pull-up diaper on underneath, and blue rain boots with dinosaurs on them. He also refuted the claim that the 2 children are nonverbal, saying while they are on the autism spectrum, they are quite trusting and say hi to everyone.
Not only that, and I'm going to go through it, and I'm going to make a short or a video today. But I think, in one of the recent live streams that he was on, Daniel was saying that he had no idea where this thing of the brown pants on the brown top came from, because that's not what Jack was wearing. Jack was wearing black pants. Welcome in, baby monkey. So, seems like Jack might have changed clothes multiple times while he was missing. Why is there so much confusion here? Yeah. Where's that? I don't know. It was kind of late in the equation. Yeah, so we went from Jack was wearing a diaper and boots. That was all the information we were given at first. And then Jack was wearing brown pants and a brown top. And then it was black pants and no idea what top. Welcome in, Seashell. Good to see you there. Does anyone know if the photos are new of the property? If so, from when? I'm not sure which photos you are referring to, but I do have some photos to share later on, which basically come from news footage, things that I noticed. It seems like that narcissists covering something up, they try to confuse you. That's what it seems like. It seems like Jack was so invisible. Well, to Daniel at least, because he's the one who's given us the different stories about what he was wearing. So he was so invisible that Daniel can't even figure out what he was wearing. Um, it's just odd. I don't understand how they can be so confused. It was never said only, I don't think. If you look at the early footage, it was reported that he was in a diaper, a pull-up diaper and boots, but I don't think it was ever said only. I think people latched onto that because they were like, well, what's the rest of the details? And I think a lot of us visualized, because of the way it was being said, a lot of us visualized this kid being put to bed in only a diaper and then going outside in, like, 2 degrees weather in the morning or something in just a diaper and boots. Exactly. I think that's the thing. Too hard to remember. And that's what we're getting so much with this case. People are running with far too many things that they've misinterpreted, or things that have been heard on AI videos early on in the case and shared as factual information, and nobody's gone back to figure out where the information originally came from, to discover that, in actual fact, that information was never publicly put out by any sort of credible source. And I think, yeah, that contributed to it, I think, very much so, because, that comment of, I doubt he'd still have his diaper on now after it got wet or something like that. I can't remember her name. I think Ellie someone. She hasn't done a lot lately. She did a lot of the early stuff. But I mean, mostly we've kind of had the same bunch lately and I haven't seen her for ages, so I can't remember. Yeah. Claims that he's the one that potty trained them, and then you've got Lily in that ATV store. It looks, or a sporting store or whatever it is, and you can tell there's a pull-up. Go figure. We might find out who she is at the end of I usually leave them at the end.
According to Martel, his side of the family are currently the only ones at ground zero after Lily and Jack's mother left the county Saturday. But still, he remains, begging anyone with answers to come forward and bring his children home safe.
Anybody who has any information, or you think you've seen something or hear something, or any messages from friends about hearing something, just contact your local police services. Anything, guys, anything.
As RCMP combed through woods and fields searching for 6-year-old Lily and 4-year-old Jack Sullivan, their stepfather Daniel Martel spends every evening conducting his own search.
As soon as I seen they were missing, I jumped right in the vehicle and I did every dirt road and searched every culvert.
The children are thought to have wandered away from their home in Lansdowne.
I swear, this interview where he's talking about, well, he's bumbling over his words and then talking about searching every culvert, and you get that white van go behind. I swear that's where the handy van story comes from. It was clearly someone who was following the case, following the footage, and that probably got in the back of their mind. So when they came up with that ridiculous story of seeing Lily in Regina and it was the handy van guy or whatever, I bet that's where it comes from. I'm just reading this. Yeah, I not a fan of kids having dummies in their mouths, soothers in their mouths long term because it screws up their teeth big time. Conducted his own search but couldn't find his stapler to put up posters. 100%. I love all the names that everyone has for dummies. Bobo, pacifier, soother. His ego is very, very high, that's for sure.
On Friday morning, Martel believes they were only gone for about 20 minutes before he and their mother noticed they were missing.
The very first day I wasn't around very much because I was just searching. I was running through the woods, screaming their name till my throat hurt.
Martel says the only concrete clue so far is a boot print found near the backyard of the property. RCMP haven't shared any additional evidence. Malaya Brooks Murray told CTV News she's still holding out hope Jack and Lily will be found. She is now staying with family outside the county, and Martel says she hasn't spoken to him since. RCMP were at the home of their stepfather, Daniel Martel, today. Officers spoke with the family, and it appeared they were searching around the property and nearby woods. They also had a helicopter searching the Lansdowne Station area from above. At a news conference yesterday, police said they'd be rechecking areas that had already been searched to see if they missed any clues.
Okay, so there's reasons for all those bits that I played. I will come back to them later on. I've got screenshots of various bits there. But there's 2 bits that was in that little segment that I played that I'm just going to replay back to back. Because remember when Janie's doing the walkthrough on her property with Ali, and she shows Ali the spot where the boot print was. And Ali says, I thought there were more. And Janie goes on to talk about the boot prints on the pipeline trail. And I had said before that we had heard early on that there were 2 boot prints in the driveway. Now, someone made a comment earlier, which I did highlight, and I don't think I'll be able to find it. When we're talking about here we go. The comment, just say I was too high to remember. Just to completely show you exactly how appropriate that is, I'm going to play these 2 clips back to back. Note the dates as well.
It went cold, so they immediately would have came right back into the house. The only 2 prints are right beside the house facing the road, and then that's it.
Martel wants the search to be extended to include provincial borders in case the children were abducted, a reality he says is becoming more and more likely.
Post any officers they can get at the New Brunswick border, PI border, and get them at every airport possible. The very first day I wasn't around very much because I was just searching. I was running through the woods, screaming their name till my throat hurt.
Martel says the only concrete clue so far is a boot print found near the backyard of the property. RCMP haven't shared any additional evidence.
They hate being wet and cold, so they immediately would have came right back into the house. The only 2 prints are right beside the house facing the road, and then that's it.
Martel says the only concrete clue so far is a boot print found near the backyard of the property.
They hate being wet and cold.
So that comment about he was just too wasted to remember. We see this in action. So May the 5th, he's telling reporters that the only thing that they found was 2 boot prints facing the road. And then the very next day, the story has changed to 1 boot print. But what stood out for me too is the fact that this, the two boot prints facing the road, basically is alongside the. We want people to check borders and, the only concrete proof is his lying. Yeah, true. Yeah. Belinda said there were many, many boot prints all over the banks of that driveway. But I think when we look at it, I think he just forgot what he said the day before. I think when you look at the way he's told the story here, he specifically placed two boot prints, only two boot prints, facing the direction of the road. And then straight after saying that, he's making a call for them to check for abductions. And then the very next day, he's saying that the only thing that was found was one boot print, and that's the story that stuck. Even though we now know that the whole area was covered in boot prints. That's exactly what I think, Charlotte. Wait, can't grab it. This shows you just how wasted he was in the first couple of days. That from one day to the next, he could not remember what he'd said the day before. Yep, exactly. And it makes me think that definitely the boot print or boot prints, plural, in the driveway were definitely planted. I think it was a case of the pressure was on. So let's now push this boot print thing really hard. But, May 5th, that's like 3-4 days on. So we've forgotten how many boot prints we made. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that seems to be the theme for this case from day one. Because they forget from one interview to another, or from one panel appearance to another. He adjusted his story after Malaya's interview was broadcast. If you watch before and after, I'll definitely have to do that. That is very, very interesting. And did you notice when he was on, was it Charmaine's? He kept referring to, as it says in the documents. So he actually had to check his story by going through the documents. Well, that's not a red flag, is it? 100%. Yep. Yep. And they've, every other thing that he said, as it says in the documents, or if there's something where he knows he's pushed a story so hard that he can't try and change it, he's like, well, the documents are wrong because I didn't hear them in the room next to ours. Well, he clearly didn't read that part of the documents correctly anyway, because it was actually Malaya who made that statement. That's all that's quoted in the documents. There is no quote in the documents saying that that's what he said. I've got all his, if you go onto my playlist, there is, I've said this before, there is a regular Jack and Lily playlist, which is where all my Jack and Lily content goes. And then there is a Jack and Lily case file. Now, I haven't got the interviews in chronological order there, but I think I might go through all the news footage and put them in chronological order for a look-see. But if you want to look at all the Daniel interviews, there is a video, there's multiple videos. So I think there's one video that has all Daniel's interviews up until just before the DT show. Then there is another video that has, I think, one interview that was done just before the DT show. And then it goes through to the end of October. And I think I've done one. I'm not sure if I got around to it. There should also be another one that has anything after the DT show, but I have to check. I think I need to get up to date with a few things, and I think it could be Daniel. That is one of the things I need to get up to date with, possibly from memory. But yeah, nearly all the primary sources, like interviews, etc., you can find in one playlist on my channel, and it's like called a case file. I started doing it with Maddie's case, and then I did it with Lily and Jack, and I started doing it with Mackenzie as well. And I will most likely be doing it with Sarah Grace, because I think I will be following her trial closely as well, because that's coming up very soon. So I'm not sure if I actually jumped in and said hi to people as they were coming in, but hi if I haven't said hi to you. And I just realised that's probably better. Okay. I will get better at setting up the showing the comments and things like that. It's a new thing to me. Okay, now I am going to come back to some photos and stuff at the end of this live stream, but I do want to go through some more audio, basically having a look at what Logan was saying. But I did want to go through some of these bits that came up because they stood out to me. I haven't found what Belinda was talking about yesterday yet, where they were outside the briefing. I can picture it, but I was looking for it at like midnight last night, so I need to go through when I'm properly awake. So let's listen to Logan. Now, we heard a little bit yesterday, but I've backtracked.
That's what I stated as well, because when I got there, I said, do you want me to stay with the baby? You can go look. She goes, I'm going to stay with the baby. Okay, said whatever. So I went looking. So that was the next thing, was when when she was told that the baby had to leave the residence. She's exactly told she did not have to leave the residence. They just wanted the baby off the residence, from the residence. As like, this whole scenario isn't something a kid should be a part of. So the baby was going to come to my house. So she's never been apart from the baby. Like, she's meadow. I said, you're more than welcome to come too. If not, I am comfortable. I have 3 kids of my own. Like Malaya, I can take care of them.
You can tell that Logan and Janie clearly are closely connected, because you have her doing that meadow, which is exactly what we've heard from Janie as well. I hadn't noticed. Anyone notice that 2 shirts he wore on day 1 and 2 of the search, the ones NBM was supposed to have taken, has he ever worn them again? That's a good question. Yeah, they do have the same jargon. Makes me think that definitely Logan must have spent a lot of time with Daniel and his family when she was growing up. And Belinda made that comment when we all thought that it must have been Justin's wife that had been with Janie when she was in the driveway having that meltdown over not wanting to let the Constable Mason in her RV. And Belinda had said, this woman said, okay, it's okay, Mum. And we're all like, oh, well, it has to be Justin's wife. And then now Belinda's like, well, actually, it was Logan. So it's interesting. Yeah, that could be, Karen, but I also think it was probably a combination of things, because I have no doubt that with the briefing, it would have also been an attempt to get a reaction from Daniel and Malaya, or to try and get a reaction they would have carefully thought about beforehand what they were going to say in the briefing. And they would have known what the expected reaction would be for parents of children who were actually missing. So it's possible that they may have also kind of triggered something there as well. Yes, definitely. It was a good move, that's for sure. That is for sure. Okay. I think we've just about caught up to where we were.
Like, I can take care of the baby, no problem. So first the baby, it was just going to be the baby, and then she decided she was going to come with me. So, but then something changed, and we were at the briefing. Her mother said something to her, and then I had to take everything out of my car and put it in her mother's car. And like I said, she had this whole plan, like she was going to drive her car into my house, and she was going to, and then the plan changed. I'm going to take the car to my mother's, like I'm going with my mother. Well, she didn't even come back for the car. Like, the search and rescue had her car towed to wherever she was because they left the car. That's how much of a hurry that was to leave. Malaya stayed at the house.
Yeah, I spoke about that yesterday. I have no doubt that the reason Malaya's car was left there was because Daniel wouldn't give the keys to Cheryl and Hayley, in my opinion. Well, this is the thing, because in that briefing, that was day 2, they definitely would have been told that major crimes were coming on board. That would have been when they told them that major crimes was coming on board. I also think that, like I said, they would have carefully chosen what they told them during that briefing to see what sort of reactions they got from them. So maybe Malaya had been told that the baby had to be off the property, but there definitely would have been some strategic prodding happening during the briefing. Yeah. Definitely, baby M was the focus. None of them even noticed Lily and Jack. I hate saying that, but none of them noticed Lily and Jack. I agree. I agree. But it's also that control thing, because he would have been so angry that she left. He wasn't expecting it. It definitely took him by surprise from everything we're hearing. So how else can you re-establish control? Because that's what the issue was with that car, the reason why that car stayed down there. Because the moment Malaya got in Cindy's car, Daniel lost control. So the only way at that point in time that he could reassert his control in any way whatsoever was to prevent her getting her car. That's a really, really good question. Maybe when she picked it up, but it certainly sounds like when you hear him talking about when Malaya got it, that pretty much became the only car that they had or something. That's a really good point. I hadn't thought about it in that perspective. So yeah, it's possible she wasn't. He never referred to it as Malaya's car. It was the white Nissan Pathfinder. And you have probably just explained why it was always referred to as the white Nissan Pathfinder. Because you never hear him, when it's talking about his own cars, you never hear him specifically describing his own cars. But with Malaya's car, it's never, ever been Malaya's car. It's always been the white Nissan Pathfinder. Good catch, Jane Doe. I hadn't even thought about that. No, they're not a towing company, and I think they were too busy to worry about towing the car. Yeah. Bingo. And when you look at DV situations, when you look at coercive control situations, I really don't think that we should overlook the fact that she only just got the plates for that car on the Thursday. Was it the Wednesday or the Thursday that she got the plates? Malaya never owned a car before then. When she was living with Cody, if she needed a vehicle, she would use Paddy's vehicle. When she moved in with Daniel, obviously she didn't have a vehicle. When you are in a coercive relationship like that, and suddenly a grandmother buys a vehicle, that was a huge threat to his control. So it is significant. She got the plates on Wednesday. Thanks. I couldn't remember. I knew it was Wednesday or Thursday. I knew it was either the day before or the day Wednesday or Thursday, but yeah. Yeah. It stood out to me when Janie was saying, oh, she could have left. She could have just, gone in Daniel's car. Like, BS. The fact that she even had to say that. shows you that even Janie acknowledged that Malaya was basically stuck there. Yeah, it cannot be understated how much of a danger it is for someone to be in a relationship like this, where they have been very carefully isolated, and then to have someone give them a vehicle. Yep. It's so typical. I mean, what we are looking at over a 2-day period, Malaya's been given a vehicle by her grandmother. On the Wednesday, she gets plates for that vehicle, which basically means that she suddenly has that freedom to go. She's no longer 100% under his control. They went into town Wednesday and Thursday, 2 days in a row. Now, we know that they used Paddy's card on Wednesday. But when you look at the many places they went on the Thursday, including going to a pharmacy for getting, like, baby rash cream and things like that. Oh, welcome in, Bonza. So what we're looking at is a 2-day period where you have suddenly Malaya's been given extra freedom. They have once again built up more debt with Paddy, spent more money on her card. But they've had 2 days of going out and spending money when Daniel was only working 1 day a week and Cody's not sending any support for the kids. Now, think about being really, really financially stretched, and you've just had to go and spend money on medication. Welcome in, Shenanigans. You've had to go spend money on getting plates for a vehicle. You've spent money on a whole heap of things over a 2-day period at a time when money is tight. So you've already got that threat of suddenly she's got the freedom of this vehicle. You throw in the added stress of spending a bunch of money over a 2-day period, even if some of it was Paddy's money. I wouldn't be surprised if, even before they got back to the property, that tensions were going up. Because when you look at the way coercive control works, Malaya being given that freedom with that vehicle would have caused panic. He would have had to have re-established control somehow, and pretty damn quickly. And frighteningly, pretty efficiently. Like, we're looking at the sort of situation that can very quickly lead to serious DV. And suddenly we have 2 children go missing, unaccounted for. And people who cannot give the same story twice. Yeah, there was also in the documents, there's something, and I've mentioned this before, something that really stood out to me in the documents was Daniel mentioned that Malaya had sent him a message about McDonald's toys. This was on the Thursday, presumably before they went into town. So again, if we're looking at a situation where, first of all, he has to tighten the reins because this vehicle is a huge threat to his control. She's asked for McDonald's toys for the kids. That's not incidental that was brought up. That is, for starters, someone having to ask permission to buy some cheap-ass toys for their children. Because even though they were her kids, 2017 Pathfinder, I believe, even though they were her kids, she still needed permission to spend a couple of dollars on little toys for her kids. The fact that he's mentioning that says to me that even that was a cause of tension that day. So I look at the accounts for Wednesday and Thursday, and I see so many red flags. And I've said this before, and I think a lot of people are starting to realise this now. This situation could have ended up far worse. We could be sitting here talking about 3 missing people. Or we could be talking about Malaya being missing and she's run up on her children. Because the risk factor here, if this is the result of some sort of event that led to Daniel losing the plot, and that's what happened to Lily and Jack, in those sort of situations, it is quite likely also that the partner could be the one that gets... Yeah, I'm trying to word it carefully, but that's exactly what I'm talking about. When someone gets into that much rage, then there is... I mean, I feel sick thinking about it. But there's such a good chance that Malaya could have also lost her life. Not only that, given the situation, had Cindy not put Malaya in that car on day 2 with the baby and taken her away, then we might be sitting here debating stories about, well, you know, Malaya hid the children. She got someone to take the children, and then she went the next day as well, and now all 3 of them are in hiding. Because things were falling apart rapidly. And we look at all the early interviews, he was off the show. So it just makes my I just feel it through my whole body right now, just the thought of it. But there was a huge risk that Malaya could have also not come out of this alive. Yes, we heard that audio where his uncle said that he wanted baby M, to himself and to basically get an apartment and live off the government. But not only that, and I pointed this out a number of times in the most recent discussions where he's been like on Charmaine's panel and then on Sunny's panel. What you notice is that anytime he talks about baby M, when he's giving his recount of events, every time he starts out with my baby and then he has to correct himself to our baby. In his mind, baby M is his. In his mind, Malaya does not have rights to baby M. The number of times, the number of times in those 2 panel discussions where he slipped up and referred to the baby as his baby, and then had to correct himself to our baby. It makes it so obvious. Yeah, and that comment that, the baby and I will visit Malaya in prison. Like I said, the story we had from Durwood and Daniel, when you match them up, and the story from Logan as well, when you match them all up, I have no idea, I have no doubt that this story they tell about Malaya doing a runner to the reserve with the baby, I have no doubt in my mind whatsoever now that that was a setup. I don't know what the full situation is, but I know that the goal was to make Malaya panic, to make Malaya lose custody of the baby, and to get the baby in Logan's custody. And it backfired. But I have no doubt whatsoever it was 100% a setup with Darren, Logan, and Daniel setting up Malaya because Daniel sees the baby as his. It was the one thing he thought he could get control back over. Yeah, honestly, the more Daniel talks, the more we hear, it is so clear it was a setup. There is no doubt in my mind. I am 100%. I mean, so often when I go through audio and stuff, I will say this is what it sounds like to me. But I have no doubt there's zero doubt in my mind that it was a setup and the goal was that baby M was going to be taken off Malaya. Logan was going to go into CPS and say, I'd like to look after her. And then Daniel had free access. Yeah, exactly. Their motives were so obvious. And the thing is, both of them, when Darren and Daniel tell those stories relating to Malaya doing a runner, what is amusing is that they both left out bits of the story, the bits that would be kind of incriminating, but they didn't confer with each other. So when they left out their bits of the story, the other person filled in the gap. So the moment you put their stories side by side, you can see exactly what happened. And then you get Daniel still crying about the fact that he can't see any of his children. Well, you reap what you sow. I can imagine, especially for a narcissist, it would be very hard to be denied access to your children. But when you try and weaponize your children, then you deserve to be denied access. Yeah. I've been working on that. It's a lot of work because it goes back to pretty much the day that Malaya left. And the thing is, a lot of it is really subtle stuff that if you weren't already aware of the situation, you might miss it. There's a lot of stuff in the documents that if you didn't understand how coercive relationships work, if you didn't understand what was going on, you might miss it. But yeah, I am definitely putting that together. It's been a very lengthy process. I have on my iPad in my media app thing, I have a bunch of clips that are labeled Daniel wants Baby M. And they play into it as well. But trust me, there is so much evidence going from the first week of the manipulation. And that's the thing. Because there's a lot of things there that need explanation. It wouldn't be a video where I could just put a bunch of clips together and release it as a video, because you need to understand the underlying psychology as well. So, yeah, it's huge. I sat down, and before I'd even started getting clips for it, I had gone through the transcripts and jotted down timestamps so that I could just then go through and go bam, bam, bam through the timestamps and get all the clips. And it was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. There's a lot. You know, there were things early on in the case where I watched things and I went, that doesn't look right. That looks like coercive control. But it was more a kind of like, I'm not so certain of that. But then when you look back on it, knowing what we know now, it's like, hell yeah, you know, it was just not good, not good. Yeah. That is the thing. I don't think I got it done yet. I spoke about this yesterday in my live stream. And I do have audio saved that I'm putting it together into a YouTube short, but I worked right up until like midnight last night, and I was basically going to work on shorts while I was lying in bed, and I got one done because I kept falling asleep and dropping my phone. But I do have a YouTube short to put out, which comes from yesterday's live stream, where I spoke about how when Hayley said to Malaya, when Logan wanted to take the baby, and Hayley saying that she said to her, you know, you've got this option, you've got family. And I made the point that when someone is being manipulated in a coercive control relationship like that, they're not able to see their choices. So Hayley probably doesn't realise it, but she was presenting a choice to Malaya that Malaya would have been programmed not to have seen. Look, I'm not saying Malaya is completely innocent in the situation, but I think we have to definitely recognise what was going on around the whole situation. And we also have to recognise, and I have no doubt about this, when you look at patterns with these sorts of relationships, we also have to recognise that Malaya could have been victim number 3 in this case. Because getting that car would have been on par with someone who is in a DV situation telling their partner they're leaving. So yeah, it's a complicated reason. It's a complicated situation. I'm certainly not excusing her. But you've got to understand how dangerous things can become very quickly in these kinds of relationships. I mean, there's no doubt now that this was a coercive control DV situation. And the most dangerous time for anybody in a situation like that is when they are trying to leave. And Malaya being given that vehicle, in Daniel's head, that the message that would have gone through in his head was, this is going to give her freedom. This is going to give her the capacity to have some autonomy. This is going to give her the capacity to leave if she wants to. So, in his head, that vehicle was almost as good as someone saying, I'm leaving. Now, obviously, you know, I'm not saying that Patty did a bad thing getting a vehicle for her granddaughter. But certainly, you know, there's a lot to this situation. Self-preservation definitely comes into play here. I will be doing a video down the track where I also share some things in terms of choices that Malaya made that I disagree with probably. But we have to, regardless of Malaya's role in this, we have to recognise what was going on at the same time. Anyway, it's always a situation that I'm a bit wary to talk about because I don't excuse any of the people that were on the property. But I also, as a female, it would be wrong of me not to acknowledge a coercive control DV situation that was dangerous. Anyway, a little bit more of this.
Stayed at the residence Friday night. When did Malaya's mother arrive at the house? So she arrived Friday. She was there before I got there Friday when they went missing. I'm not sure the exact time. We all tried to figure that out. I'm not sure. Did Malaya's mother stay overnight there? I am unsure, but she was there in the morning when I got back.
It's a shame no one actually asked Logan what time she got there on the Friday, because there's some major deflection there. What time did she get there? Oh, well, she was there when I got there. How do we know that Malaya didn't, Logan didn't get there at 3 o'clock in the afternoon? This notion of Cindy getting there within like 16 minutes of the RCMP. If that was the case, we would have seen arrests 10 months ago. All of them, they're basically trying to implicate Cindy, saying that she was involved. When Janie got called out on it and people pointed out the absurdity in the end, I think she gave a little bit and said, well, she must have already been on the way. But from the get-go, Daniel was pissed because he blames Cindy. This is my opinion anyway. He blames Cindy for Malaya leaving and taking the baby. And when you listen to some of the earlier things before he stopped blaming people outright, one of the things he said was he thought that Cindy and Hayley had something to do with the children going missing. The two people who basically stood up to him. So this is just more of the gaslighting and the attempting to throw Cindy under the bus. But I mean, you just have to look at the documents to realise that it would be absurd for Cindy to have somehow managed to get there that quickly. Oh, yeah. And that's why I said, if Cindy had been there that quickly, we would have seen arrests 10 months ago. Because you can bet that the RCMP know exactly what time Cindy arrived. And, we have these text messages that were shared. And we have a message from Cindy to Malaya saying, I'm on my way. And it was sometime after 11. Are they going to just create some elaborate hoax of Cindy already being there and then sending Malaya a message, I'm already on my way? I don't think so. Yeah, Daniel pointing his finger at everyone. Yeah, exactly. If that was truly the case with Cindy, this would have all been over. But, they're desperate. They don't want people looking at them.
back. So she could have stayed the night. Like I said, I am unsure because I didn't stay at the residence that night. I went home. And Daniel did pass the lie detector test.
What was Daniel's relationship like with Malaya's mom?
From what I understand, Malaya's relationship with her mother was never great. She didn't want to live with her mother. So Daniel's poison is, from what I understand, poison. Like he always said, and he said this in his interviews over and over again, is every time Malaya got ahead in life, her mother pulled her back. So we'll just go with that. That woman has...
Okay, this is something I have touched on before, but this is something that is important that needs to be discussed. When Malaya moved to the property with Daniel, we know that she cut off most of the people in her life. Daniel wouldn't even let her go see Belinda, wouldn't let her even take the kids to see Belinda. You hear Hayley saying that she was basically cut off. She didn't get to see her. The thing is, Daniel would have had no control when it comes to Cindy. There was no need to cut off Patty because she was where the money was coming from. So he was happy with that. But Cindy, that was the one area where he didn't have full control. As long as Malaya was still in contact with Cindy, as long as Malaya was still communicating with Cindy, that was the one area where he could potentially lose control of Malaya. We've heard a lot from Daniel, and we're hearing it from Logan too, where it's this whole thing of the relationship between Cindy and Malaya was toxic. It was really, really bad. It was, really, really horrid. Yeah, we know that it probably wasn't perfect. But here's the thing that happens in these sorts of relationships. Yeah, exactly. Where's it gone? It was a fight he could not win. He knew that he could not tell Malaya, you cannot have contact with your mother. He would lose that fight. So instead, and everything we've heard from Daniel when he talks about Cindy, to me confirms this. Any time when Malaya and Daniel were living together, any time that there would have been any sort of tension between Malaya and Cindy, any time there were any issues between Malaya and Cindy, or any times when Malaya was upset with Cindy, Daniel would have used that to undermine the relationship. So if they'd been to Cindy's and they get back home and Malaya's upset because Cindy said something that she didn't like, Daniel would have put on the oh so sympathetic, caring act and basically reinforced whatever it was that Malaya felt was wrong. So that over that 2-3 year period, he would have been carefully undermining their relationship. Every opportunity he got, anytime there was some negativity between Cindy and Malaya, he would have been using that to undermine their relationship. Because that was the only way he could control Malaya's relationship with her mother. And when you listen to the many, many things he's said about Cindy, you can actually tell that that's what was going on. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. I told you your mother's toxic. Why do you keep putting yourself through it? That is exactly the message that Malaya would have been getting for 2 or 3 years. It would have been subtle at first, but over time, it would have reached the point where he could start pushing it to that extent. One of the panel discussions he was on, he was talking about how, Malaya was talking about completely cutting off communication with Cindy. And I said to her, don't do that, she's your mother. And I have no doubt that's probably how the conversation went. Because when you are doing that sort of things, you undermine a relationship. It is very, very manipulative and very underhanded. So he would have been reveling if she'd have actually said, I just want to cut all ties with my mother. He would have been like wanting to celebrate. But that's kind of danger zone. So saying, oh, you can't do that, she's your mother, is just more manipulation, more mental manipulation. Removing himself as the villain. Because then down the track, it would all be 100% her decision. Oh, remember I told you it was a bad idea. I wasn't the one who decided to cut all ties with Cindy. That was your idea. Remember? I told you I thought it was a bad idea. So much manipulation in just that one thing. Just having a look. Yes, but see, that's what happens. So you've got to have that difficulty in a relationship first for someone to be able to get their claws into it and start to work on undermining it. So any time, because clearly, I mean, we know that Malaya and Cindy's relationship wasn't perfect. And sometimes it's just a case of, as adults, you just need to learn to build an adult relationship. Now, I don't know what their relationship was like completely. But it does sound like Malaya was not so good with consequences, perhaps. I don't know. But the thing is, yes, Malaya would have been complaining to Daniel about things between her and Cindy. And he would have every time basically not just taken up Malaya's side, but also used it to paint Cindy as a bad person, as someone who is not good for Malaya's mental health. So that over time, things would have escalated between Malaya and Cindy. And that would have allowed Daniel to continue to say, see, I told you she's toxic. Yeah, I don't think she liked being told what to do by Cindy from what we're hearing. Again, it's a complicated thing to describe. But it's that chipping away at a person's relationship with someone every time something is said, you chip away a little bit more. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, what's happening here is a lot of seriously dysfunctional relationships. And not a good situation. Yeah. Exactly. And that's exactly the word that to describe it. It's weaponizing. You're using challenges in a relationship and you are weaponizing it to undermine that relationship with the goal of destroying that relationship. So I'm not saying that there was any sort of perfect relationship between Malaya and Cindy, but it's a situation where you've got this issue happening and the whole coercive control thing is basically working on undermining things further based on what was going on. Okay. I'm just going to just quickly take one of the dogs out. Amira needs to go out, so I'm just going to dash out with her for a sec. This fits in with what we were watching at the start, so I'm going to put this on for a moment.
I'm a math man, yeah, I count cans, live in a trailer with rusted pants. Mom's dog's bald, it's got no flair, lost all its hair, and it don't care. Pink blankets, lies I've told again, footprints vanish like phantom friends. I'm Superman, Daniel, faster than wind, stronger than a chopper with a rotor spin. I rake my driveway for Mom shakes her fist. Super Daniel, yeah, I can't be missed.
I like this one better, I think.
Not allowed on Mama's ATV. She says I drive it recklessly. X wrote her name on my mirror in red. Now I'm searching cold. It's like I lost my head. Dirt roads, rivers, waist high deep. Virginia slims, I puff and leap. I'm Superman, Daniel, faster than wind, stronger than a chopper when the rotors spin. I rake my driveway for Mom shakes her fist. Super Daniel, yeah, I can't be missed. No load on Mama's ATV. She says I drive it recklessly. X wrote her name on my mirror in red. Now I'm searching covers like I lost my head. Dirt roads, rivers, waist high deep. Virginia slims, I puff and leap. I'm Superman, Daniel, arrogant and bold, strutting pop lines in the cold. Work 1 day a week at the sawmill grind. Super Daniel, yeah, I own my time. I'm Superman, Daniel, arrogant and bold, strutting pop lines in the cold. Work 1 day a week at the sawmill grind. Super Daniel, yeah, I own my time.
Even with me running through the woods over the head of the helicopters and head of the drones and stuff like that.
That's a good one.
Yeah, you're right, Bonzo. It does take about the right amount of time to get the dogs out and come back. And usually I catch my breath, but not this time. I will just point out, because it is cold this morning, Mouse basically lifted his head, looked at me and went, nah, I'm not going out. So it's possible that he might suddenly wake up and decide he needs to go out next. But we'll just play it by ear. Anyway, I'm going to play a bit more of this. Now, I know that I'm not getting very far through the Logan audio, but it does bring up some major issues here, listening to it. So I do think it's important to stop and look at these things that I think are significant.
Shed a tear the whole time she was there. My dad even stated that. He goes, I cried like my father cried and cried. This is a 55-year-old man, and he cried for those children, and that grandmother didn't shed a tear. Now, I know you can't speak.
That baffles me. Because my understanding was that Janie's brothers didn't really have much of a connection with Malaya and the children. And wasn't it... I must be getting brothers confused. Because I think, I mean, you know, Ron was like, the last time he saw them was at some family function. So it's not like, it sounds like he was there, you know, regularly visiting with Malaya and the children. So it just doesn't make sense. I hate being asked this question because people just laugh at me. You know, I've seen all these photos of Canada over the winter, and it gets freaking cold there, definitely. So I always get a bit reluctant to answer when people ask what is cold here. For me personally, anything under 10 degrees Celsius feels cold. Which I know for some people probably feels like a heat wave in winter. Some places in Australia it gets really cold, but you know, if it goes below 0, you think you're gonna die. And here, if it goes below 0, you probably only get -1 or -2. But yeah, it comes down to what you're accustomed to. Because, you know, this is Australia. Yeah, we've got temperate climate down the south here, although where I'm at, it's more of a Mediterranean climate. So you do get cold weather here. But also we get a lot of really warm weather. So the other thing to mention is most Australians live in coastal areas. I'm like in the middle of Victoria, I'm like way inland. But when you live in coastal areas, you get that cold air coming through as well, which makes a difference. Some areas, the winds are coming basically straight from Antarctica. So it's that sort of cold wind that just cuts through you like ice. So it doesn't sound very cold, but in some places, when you get that wind coming straight from Antarctica, it does, like, the wind chill factor is something else. Anyway, let's go on a little bit. Wow, see, I can't comprehend that. I cannot comprehend that. I just think, how do you even function? I mean, I know here in Australia that our houses are so lack insulation and so damn cold that we'd all die. But -30, like, yeah, but I can remember one place where I used to work was really, really cold. And in the winter, I would have, like, thermal stockings, and I'd have Explorer socks over my stockings, and then knee-high boots to hide the Explorer socks. And I'd be wearing 2 thermals. and be cold. And that's like not even going below 0. So it's mind-blowing, absolutely mind-blowing. Wow. Mm. Yeah, I I can still tell, like, even though Bendigo is quite some distance from our sort of alpine region, I can always tell. I can walk outside and straight away say there's snow somewhere. You feel it, don't you? It just you can tell. Oh, well, that just sounds like Melbourne. Go down to Melbourne. If you don't like the weather, come back in 5 minutes. Um, not so much here. You get pretty much mostly the weather stays the same all day. But seriously, Melbourne, the weather changes so rapidly. But, I guess, it's what we'll get accustomed to our areas. -30, -40, that's just does my head in. Does my head in. Wow. Now, this is going to make you guys laugh. But here, if we get, on the very, very rare occasions, if we get an inch of snow, that's going to just shut down everything. You're going to have people like, I can't come to work because there's snow, I can't drive on this. You're going to have schools shut down, businesses not opening because there's an inch of snow on the ground. So it's just mind-blowing when I hear people talking about the challenges of getting to work in places where there's real snow, where you actually have to shovel the snow to get out of your driveway to even go to work. If we had a situation like that in Australia, we're so unaccustomed to it that we would just be ringing our bosses and going, I can't come to work because there's snow. Oh, yeah, look, I've probably, at the most, driven over snow a dozen times. That's more than most Australians. And that's only because I was working in places where they weren't too worried about driving over snow because it was something that happened more frequently than, other areas. But for me, those times when I was driving over snow scared the crap out of me. Just so, so scary because it's not something that I'm used to. It's not something that you learn to do on a regular basis. And yeah, I think the majority of Australians have probably never had to drive over snow. So if it snows somewhere in the, areas that don't usually get snow, the whole area just shuts down. Oh yeah, well, it's still, tradition to, head up the mountain if it's snowing. But, so many people are not gonna go to work if they have to drive over snow because they're just gonna be like, "There's snow, we can't drive." It's mind-blowing. Yeah, that's the other thing too. I mean, here, if you've got areas where it gets icy, they will salt the road, or they'll go through and dump extra gravel over the road. But in terms of snow and stuff, we don't have anything in place for dealing with that sort of thing. Snow on the roads, it stays there till it melts. We have no way of getting rid of it. So yeah, I can see. Yeah, the frostbite and hypothermia. You do see here in Australia, the thing you do see on occasion is people who go bushwalking in alpine areas, not realizing that they could well end up bushwalking and it snows and they get stuck, a day's walk from anywhere. And there've been a lot of people who've got themselves into trouble going bushwalking in these sort of alpine areas because they misjudged it, and then, things have gone south pretty quickly. Oh, pickle brine. Wow. I think here in Australia it's just like dry salt because there's no smell or anything afterwards. City smelling of pickle. I love that. I think that's brilliant. Yeah, me too. I think that sounds yummy. I'm going to do a bit more audio.
Daniel's behalf, but what does he really truly believe happened to these kids? That's something that he has stated all along, that it's something that has to come from him. Honestly, he believes I think he believes that they were picked up by now, like that they were abducted, because there's no sign of them in the woods. He doesn't believe they're in the woods. That's something I don't know, because you always have your line of doubt, right? Like you always have your theories and your things, so I can't speak on his behalf on that.
She's really struggling to answer that. I can't help thinking that Logan knows what happened to these children. She's trying to push Daniel's narrative, but she's not comfortable with it. And her brain is throwing up these roadblocks non-stop. So she's trying to share Daniel's story and her brain is going, that's BS, you're lying, tread carefully. It just makes Daniel look even more guilty, in my opinion. She doesn't believe what she's saying here.
No, I don't believe he believed or believes that Malaya had anything to do with the children missing. No, they do have separate cell phones. And the
You've heard that there. Because this is where the narrative keeps coming and going. We had originally the Logan saying, "Oh no, Daniel doesn't believe Malaya had anything to do with it." Then you had this period of time where Daniel and Janie were both carefully pointing at Malaya. This is after Darren came out, and so Janie and Daniel ran with that without directly saying that without directly accusing Malaya. And now he's backed off again there was one interview where he came out again and said, there's a few. There was one where he was like, I didn't do anything to the kids. Malaya didn't do anything to the kids. My mother didn't do anything to the kids. But there's another one where he says, I don't believe Malaya had anything to do with it. But then he forgets that that's the narrative he's trying to push. And he comes back to trying to blame it on Malaya. Yeah, she's definitely Daniel's handler. Like that going, it wasn't just the going to court. He was it Jack's birthday when they went to the vigil? Oh my gosh, hello. In your presence. I haven't seen you in a very, very long time. Good to see you in here. Yeah, she was there with him at the vigil as well. So she is definitely his handler. His bodyguard. But when I listen to what she's saying here, it really does make me think that she knows. And I hope that the RCMP have questioned her.
Even gave Daniel a cell phone while they took Daniel's cell phone. So, like, yeah, right. No.
Confirmation again of Daniel having been given a cell phone. So, definitely, they gave him a cell phone. And none of them had any idea that that's not normal practice in cases. So that's classic. That is such classic. So classic.
I don't know, like I said, like whatever she has offered up or whatever she has done, if she had a lie detector test or whatever she has done, I can't speak on her behalf anymore because I haven't seen her since literally that Saturday, but I haven't spoken to her since that Sunday. So
This is, yeah, I know it's you, Mrs. G. It's so nice to see you in here. BTTV was in here for a while. I'm not sure if she's still in here. Yeah, this is another case with a lot of people coming out with lots of stories that aren't true. A lot of the usual BS going on in the background. Nothing quite as evil as what we've seen with Kylie's case, but certainly there's evil connected to this case. Just a quick, I'm just going to backtrack because Mrs. G is one of my OGs. The two little people you can see on the screen here, Lily and Jack Sullivan, they were reported missing May last year by their mother and stepfather. They've not been found. There's so many red flags with this case. We're looking at a coercive control DV situation in the relationship between the mother and the stepfather. We're looking at stories that keep changing every other day. We're looking at people who go on the attack regularly. So both sides are attacking each other. And then you've got all these other extras that have come in from who knows where that are also attacking people left, right, and centre. And as yet, we've got very little information from the RCMP. We're just hoping that there will be arrests made sometime in the future. Now, obviously this was done before the information came out about them doing the lie detector tests. But it's interesting here what we were just saying about her being Daniel's handler. She said she hadn't seen her since that Saturday, but hadn't spoken to her since the Sunday. We know that when Malaya left, she blocked Daniel. And obviously she wouldn't have been answering her phone. Logan saying she hadn't spoken to her since the Sunday. Well, that sounds like, again, Logan was meant to be the go-between. Logan was probably trying to contact Malaya on behalf of Daniel. So it certainly seems that she is Daniel's handler or his bodyguard or his all those sort of things. Yeah, I've never tried to work one of those fridge locks. So I don't know how hard they would be for a little kid. I don't know if it requires some sort of strength to screw it or anything like that. Every 4 and 6-year-old can open a child-proof lock. It depends on how the locks are done. Because it looks like that's kind of stretchy with the fridge. So I would wonder if it was something that required a bit more strength to actually pull it to unlock it. Yeah, I mean, yeah. When you've got a baby that's learning to crawl, then, you do have things like that to be aware of. But there's a lot of things that Daniel says that certainly makes me think that there were limitations on what they were allowed to have in the kitchen. So while they probably could have unlocked them, I think the message was there as well. Your 7-year-old autistic son can't open them. Yeah, this is something that's been quite a hot topic, and I think I'll move on and from it for now because we could debate this all day. And I just want to get a little bit further through this audio. Yeah. If they could open the fridge, they could get out and make breakfast. They really did pretty much just have each other by the sounds of it. Yeah, see, that's one of the red flags. When he talks about them hoarding food in their bedrooms. And when he's talking about how they would go in the kitchen to get things, he talks about the words he uses are things like take, like words that suggest that it wasn't something that they were supposed to do. And they're the things that make me question the locks. I just want to do a little bit more with Malaya because I did want to go through these pictures. I haven't had a chance to check messages. I did one quick email before the live, but I haven't looked at any other messages since then.
It was a shock to Daniel that she actually up and left him. Yes, 100%. Because one moment there was an altercation at the end of the driveway, which was me and one of Malaya's family members screaming at each other, and the cops were called down. So when the cops came down, they took Malaya aside. They took my mother aside because my mother said she was part of the altercation, which she was. I was as well. And my aunt. We all got spoken to by the police.
She dumps Cheney in it there Because Janie was like, I have no idea what the altercation was because I wasn't there. Whereas Logan just completely dumped her in it there. Completely.
Leia literally told the police officer right then and there, like, this is the happiest I've ever been. I feel the safest when I'm with here. Like, even when she left, Officer Mason was dead shocked, as was Daniel, that she actually left.
Now, I don't put any weight on this comment. Even if Malaya did say that, put yourself in the situation of being someone who is in a relationship where there is coercive control and where there is DV. Are you really going to say to some stranger, yeah, things are crap, this is what happens? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. These are all the lines you hear. He never hit me. I always feel safe with him. He's great with the children. He has a voice that they listen to. These are all the sort of lines that you hear in these domestic situations. She could be sitting there with a massive bruise on her face and saying, this is the safest I've ever felt. Because you are not going to turn around and say, yeah, I'm afraid because I'm afraid that he's going to get violent with me again. Because that's not a safe thing to say. So, of course, she's going to turn around and say it's the safest I've ever felt. Now, I'm going to do more of the audio from Logan tomorrow, but I did want to go through just quickly, because we're over 2 hours, but I did want to go through some images. Let me pause. That come from the footage that I showed at the beginning of the live stream. So these are some of the reasons why some of these clips were shown. Yes, I agree. When you hear someone make statements like that, it's a huge red flag. It's definitely time to pay attention and look for the other cues. Whoops. Okay, so some of these are just kind of like I hadn't seen that before. But moving, first of all, the discussion yesterday about why didn't they walk to the briefing. There's a few images here where you can see just how steep it is. So this is from the very corner of Gairloch Station Road. And you have to go up that hill to get to where they were set up. So this is down here is where all the cars were parked. But to get to the briefing, they would have had to have gone up that steep hill. Now, given that they had the baby with them as well, they're not carrying the baby up that hill, especially not having already walked along from Gairloch Road. So there's just a few images that show you how steep it is. I zoomed in a bit there for you. So yeah, you can see, hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea. This one, not just to show you how steep it is, but to show you how many vehicles are along that road and how tight that road was. Because this is the base. So you had all the searchers parking vehicles here as well. You had, you know, law enforcement and everything there. It was a busy area. And I'll explain why that is important in a minute. So again, you can see how crowded it was, just vehicles everywhere. You can see there's not a lot of room to get past. Yeah. That's a good question. How did that come up in the conversation? Because I think Daniel would have been making a big thing of her leaving. Yeah, yeah. I understand. And there are some people who really know how to, you know, stand up for themselves. Yeah, I would imagine that was probably an add-on, quite likely. Okay. Pushing on because the dogs are awake, so I have probably limited amount of time. But I did want to get through these. Okay, now you might not be able to see. I'm going to have to take comments off stage for a minute. Right there. This is on Yellock Station Road. And right there, on the right-hand side of the screen, is a 2017 Nissan Pathfinder. And it's parked halfway across the frickin' road. That looks like Malaya's vehicle. And it looks like it was parked. And we know Daniel drove it. So it looks like it was parked in a really inconvenient spot. I'll show you where he parked at the marsh in a minute too. So him saying that they were annoyed about her vehicle. Yeah, because you're meant to have plates front and back, aren't you, in Nova Scotia? So I don't know if there was a plate on the front. DV victims need to be empowered, and we need to talk about it more. Because that's when things get buried. That's when people get embarrassed. And people need to learn there's no shame in it. Yeah, unless the plates are on the front, but not on the back. But the way it's parked, if this is Malaya's vehicle, which it seems quite likely, it was in the way. And ironically, she wasn't the one that parked it there and put it in the way, it was him. Also, when he talks about how he's like, you know, whoever it was said to him, that damn car, it's always in the way. Daniel didn't give the keys to Cheryl or Haley. So if they were telling him that vehicle's in the way, he chose not to go and collect it and move it out of the way. He chose to leave it there. In the middle of the road. Anyway, Right. He probably doesn't know how to park. I mean, the guy crashes every vehicle that he drives, so he probably never learned how to park. I would imagine, I don't know what it would cost to get the plates for the vehicle. But that would certainly be a source of an argument. So probably was the intention to put the plates on when they got home. What's interesting about that is, does that mean that there was no time? Does that mean that something happened not long after they got home? Or was he going to take his time to put the plates on for her to make it harder? You still got to do the transfers and stuff, though. So it'd be interesting to know, in terms of getting the plates, what... oh, good night, go get some rest, pause. Be interesting to know what other paperwork needed to be done in that instance. I thought there was a replacement cost here if you lose one of your plates. I could be wrong. I've never actually lost a plate. You pay for plates and to register a vehicle in Canada. You would in Alberta. Yep. I'd be interested to know if it's usually pretty much similar. So I'd imagine there would be some cost. So this is a clip that kept getting played over and over and over in the early footage. And again, bit of I Spy here. And this is how I knew that the vehicle that I showed in the last thing was Malaya's vehicle. Because, see over on the right-hand side again, where you have this white Nissan Pathfinder parked off the road. That's the marsh. That's the spot where he parked it. That's basically, and I'll show you Google Earth in a minute, but that is basically the location where he said there's this little drive at the side of the marsh that he parked the vehicle. So it was actually not far from the road, but you can see right there, that's where it was parked. Aha, thank you. Initial application fee of $106. Permit fees based on vehicle's weight range from $101 for a small car to $196 for a 5,000 kilo vehicle, and a transfer fee. So yeah, a couple of $100 then perhaps. Yep. Okay, cool. There you have a much clearer view of the divider in the kids' room. So it was a solid wooden wall by the looks of it. And it certainly looks like one side would have been a pretty dark room. Yeah, see, that's the thing here, when you register a car, the plates are part of the registration cost. So yeah, there's the wall. So we can see how it's divided straight through, with one side not getting a lot of light from the window. I think I've got possibly, oh yeah, I zoomed in for you. Can't see it going back. Just a quick one for everyone from yesterday. I just kind of, what's your problem? Oh, sorry, just Amira's getting unsettled, so I'll have to speed this up. It would have made the left-hand side of the room very, very dark. This is what we were talking about yesterday. I've kind of connected families using different color lines. So you've got Malaya, and her parents are Henry and Cindy. So you've got the blue line for Henry and Cindy. And then you've got Cindy ended up with Joe, and Cindy and Joe had Hayden, who is therefore Malaya's half-brother. But Joe also has Hayden's half-siblings from a previous partner, which are Haley and Joe. And then on the periphery, you've got Shelby, who is Joe's partner and has kids with him, and Cheryl, who is Shelby's sister. Feel free to take screenshots. I don't know if that explains it anymore. I'll go back a little bit. I don't know if it's an open door. No, it doesn't. It's too wide to be an open door, I think. Yeah, it would be interesting to know how far down the room it goes, whether it just blocks the beds or what. Yeah, there was. Daniel said to the turkey guy, Joe Senior and Joe Junior, yeah. Daniel said to the turkey guy that there was one room for his kids and one room for Lily and Jack. So that room for his kids was getting used 2 nights out of every 2 weeks. It is wide enough to be a bookcase, isn't it? I could imagine using a bookcase to divide a room. But yeah, when we're hearing them say that the room was, or hearing him say the room was divided, it could well be that the bookcase was used as a divider. Or it could also be that that's just the end piece of the wall and it's narrower and that's just used to give it the stability. Well, it's quite likely that he wasn't getting visits with his kids, because it sounds like he didn't. Sounds like he was couch surfing. I suspect the reason that he moved in with Malaya after only 2 weeks was because he was probably couch surfing. So he did a bit of love bombing and got himself moved in very, very quickly. Possibly. Okay, let's just have a quick look at Street View. So this is, you can barely see, but I wanted to show you this. This is where he parked the vehicle. And if you look really hard and squint through the trees, you can see the trailer. So definitely, first of all, look how far it is. You would park on the road near the trailer if it was just to not get in the way of vehicles, or if you couldn't get into the driveway. He definitely parked the vehicle this far away down at the marsh because he was going to sneak back in the woods, in my opinion. Because he would have thought they wouldn't see him from that distance. Just a little bit more. There's only a few clips here. Okay, so this is the same spot that I just showed you. So I'm not sure that it is a door. I'll come back to that in just a minute. So this is the spot that you just saw, which is the driveway to the marsh, and just looking straight down that driveway is, just bear with me again. Oh, yeah, you can barely even tell. But where those trees are, that's where that little driveway is. So I think probably he couldn't get through because of that tree that's in the way. But you can see, if you park there, you can head for the woods pretty quickly and not be seen. So I think that I think the reason for parking the car there was to sneak back into the woods and avoid seeing the RCMP, in my opinion. Again, that's just showing you again the distance. I'll quickly bring that back up, run it back a little bit. No, he didn't park there. There's no way he parked there out of convenience. No way. He parked there because he thought they wouldn't see him parking there, and he thought he could just head straight for the woods, and he got caught. It's possible, I guess probably he maybe wasn't expecting them to be there that early. Maybe he had driven past the trailer and Malaya had been like, oh, there he is now, and he went past. And you can imagine one of the detectives probably went, let's get him. I can see how it could look like a door, but I think what you're looking at that you think looks like a handle is actually the thing on the window. I think it's just it's either a bookshelf or it's two boards side by side to like stabilize at either end of the wall. Oh, it was definitely avoidance. When you look at, when you actually take a closer look at where it was and you have a look at how overgrown it was, that was definitely avoidance. He was probably planning on heading into the woods, and he probably thought that the RCMP would come and get a statement from Malaya, maybe search the area, and he could just hide out until it was all gone. I don't think any of them expected how much attention this case would get. Yeah, it's a window catch. It's right on the frame. I can't, like, I could see how it could appear to be an open door, but that's right in the window. So how could you have a open door right in the window? Yeah, it looks. Oh yeah, it could be like a screen where it's in sections. Maybe he used doors to block it off. I don't know, but it definitely shows that the room was divided. It wasn't like, a big open room. Anyway, I've been going for 2.5 hours, and Amira has gone back to sleep. But there's only a matter of time before she wakes up again and wants to go outside again. Yeah, no, these are the ones that slide sideways. Yeah, actually that's true. And given that, sorry, I desperately needed a drink. Given that this was done after the children went missing, then it's possible that it would have been opened up. Anyway, I'm losing my voice as well now. So I'm going to wrap it up there. Thanks for coming in. Love the chat today again. Yeah, just great stuff. I appreciate everyone coming in. I appreciate everyone taking the time to come and listen to my content. If you haven't hit the like button, please do so on the way out. I will try and get some of these videos out that I spoke about with Daniel and stuff. If you are new to my channel, please subscribe. And if you're listening on replay, or even if you just want to help me with getting things into the algorithm, please do leave a comment below. So thanks, and I'll catch you all in the next one.
Give a fuck about